So I guess the best place to start is what's this ride been like for you ever since White Lotus ended? Or I guess since you were cast, really.
Yeah, it started, the roller coaster started pretty much when I first auditioned.
Yeah.
And then kind of the anxiety of waiting to get the call back and then doing the call back and then, waiting to find out if I got it and then getting it and then going to Thailand to actually film it was a whole other experience. And then it's just been a whirlwind. It's been, some of the best months of my life.
Yeah.
It's been, it's a dream come true, and it's.
I mean, just, White Lotus, getting engaged, your name out there everywhere. I mean, the last several months have been pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of those years that you're going to mark down as one of the best. Probably.
Yeah. I mean, it was a mix of last year. I got engaged.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I got engaged 2 years ago now. That was like, I got engaged and did the audition, and I found out I got the role and Christmas within like a week. So it was like, they say things come in threes. So that was a really great week. And then the next year filming it, and then this year for it to actually come out and be promoting it. It's been, it's been a whirlwind.
From that you've
well, look, I think that it's definitely the show that's gotten watched the most.
Yeah.
So it gets watched by both critics and by the masses, by the audience. I've been fortunate to be involved in some really great projects. The Staircase was one that was really a dramatic character and role and series, and I got to play opposite, Colin Firth and Juliette Binoche and Toni Collette and Michael Stuhlbarg, all these incredible Emmy and Oscar actors. That was really incredible, and Gen V with the boys, that had a big fan base as well. But this White Lotus is something that kind of touches the drama side, it touches the comedic side. It's something that's watched by a lot of the insiders, like I was saying, and people in the industry, and then also by the masses. So you kind of get judged in a way that I've never been judged before.
But what do you think in terms of?
It's weird to watch yourself, I don't know. I mean, you're always like, anytime you do work, there's part of you and you're a little self-conscious of, is this believable? Am I doing a good job? Am I not? But really, I think, I put all the trust into Mike White, and, he can bring out a performance in all the different actors and actresses that I don't think people have seen before, and that's the beauty of working with someone like him. And you're putting his words, on the screen.
Are you particularly proud of this one?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very proud. I'm very proud of the whole series, to just be involved in it. I'm proud of my work. I'm proud of my castmates' work. It's really cool to be part of a series that you enjoy watching, and that also your friends and your family, really enjoy watching.
Yeah. To that point, your dad had said that there were times when he didn't even recognize you in the role, which when he said that to you, you were kind of like, wow, really?
Yeah.
What does that mean to you, that you were that deep in the character? That
well, I think it's good that he didn't recognize that, because the character is a little out there and different, so it'd be a little bit alarming if he did recognize a lot of those characteristics and parts about Saxon. But I mean, that's our goal as an actor, is to go and place ourselves into someone else's shoes and into their lives, and to try to transform into someone we're not.
When it came to the show itself, you, like everybody else, started watching it, I guess, the first season during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Did you get hooked on it, just like everybody else?
Oh yeah, we were hooked.
Yeah.
We were hooked. I mean, it was. I think the first season came out 2020 or 2021. I can't remember, but it was during that kind of COVID time period, and it was me, Abby, my fiance, and my mom. We lived together, us three.
During the pandemic?
During the pandemic. So you can imagine how fun that was. And then they were always, like, my mom and my sister was always like, why aren't you in? You need to be in this show. You need to audition. This is such a perfect thing, blah, 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 blah. And then finally the third season I got to be part of.
Tell me about your audition, because it sounds like you weren't really you weren't really given anything,
right?
Other than what, a sentence of what Saxon was supposed to be?
Yeah, it was one sentence. It said Saxon Ratliff. He is a Southern finance flirts with anything. I think that was the
that was
sentence.
It.
That was it.
What did you do for that first audition? If you're to describe it, it sounds pretty funny.
Yeah, it was. Well, I've said this before. My brother-in-law Chris Pratt had told me that with self-tapes, it's within the first couple seconds, the casting director will be able to know, are you kind of the vibe and the idea of the character they're looking for. The wording was that he flirted with anything. So I just took the first few seconds and just kind of, what we call, I don't want to say something inappropriate.
No, that's
yeah. Stared at the camera in a loving way.
Erotic, maybe?
Yeah, I just kind of was taking a moment to flirt and hit on the camera and have this kind of weird sexual tension moment that was very awkward, but kind of creepy, but funny.
What you kept, during this whole process, though, you kept it secret from everybody except your fiance, right?
No, she didn't know anything.
She didn't know either.
No.
So when did you decide to tell everybody that you got it?
Oh, when I got it. I told them a few days after I got it.
Yeah.
Because at first I was like really nervous to tell anyone, and then I told my fiance because we had just gotten engaged and we were going to go start planning our wedding for that summer, and then that's when I had to say, hey, I booked White Lotus. I'm going to be gone for 7 months. So I had to
that's an awkward conversation.
Smooth that over. Yeah.
It strikes me that Saxon could have been kind of a one-note character.
Yeah.
Right. Did you have any reservations because he was?
Yes.
The way he was?
I did. I remember talking with my friend and Abby, my fiance, at the time when I booked the role, and I started to read the first, couple episodes, and it was my mistake to kind of judge the character off of the first couple episodes, which a lot of people ended up doing. I was worried. Yes, I was worried. I was worried about how was I going to play this character with some depth and some different levels, and how do you I didn't want him to come off as just this one note character.
Because I've read where people come up to you and they're like, man, I hate you.
Yeah.
which is a compliment because they love your performance, but was there ever a time you think, God, do I really want to play a guy that's going to come off as such a...
Yes, well, there's times in my life now where it's a conscious choice of where do I want to go next,
right?
Which is something completely different, and I don't want to do that exact type of character again. I mean, I never want to do something too similar, but it never crossed my mind of I'm not going to do this show, or I'm not going to do this because of the character, or whatever.
You just knew you had to be careful.
Yeah, I just knew that I just had to find ways to show a little bit of an arc. And work with Mike and make some small choices from the actor side to showcase that. But this is also a show that is, like Mike always said, people like to watch these characters.
Yeah.
They love to hate them, and it's what brings people laughter and joy, and it's part of the overall theme of the show of kind of rooting for some of these people to go down the drain. It's part of the fun.
Yeah. Tell me about some of the things that you did to become Saxon. A lot of them were just little things that you kind of did. Like you've talked about when you get out of the pool and you walk by the girls. Tell me about some of those. And
on our first day filming, the first day we filmed, it was episode 1, and I'm getting out of the pool, and I said on the page it wrote that Saxon was swimming in the pool, swimming laps in the pool. And I kind of said to Mike, hey, do you think it'd be fun if we had the camera just right here and only showed the eyes? And it made it kind of like a crocodile, shark type of a feel, and it made it look more, suspicious and kind of creepy and weird, that he was kind of checking out the people at the pool just through here, and he liked that. And then it read that, Saxon gets out of the pool and goes to his lounge chair next to Chelsea, who is Amy Lou. And I remember doing that the first time, and I'm walking out, and I go and I just kind of grab my myself, and I adjust myself while looking over at Amy Lou in kind of a, and I sit down, and then I'm sitting there and I'm talking with my brother about how these long plane rides make me so horny and all this, and I'm kind of playing with myself and minding myself. And I just remember Mike coming over, and he was like, Did you just do what I think you did? Did you just play? Did you just adjust yourself mid-scene? Did you just play with yourself mid-scene? And I was like, yeah, is that okay? I mean, he was like, that's Saxon, that's brilliant, that's perfect, it's perfect. And I was like, okay, so Mike's cool with me messing around a little bit and adding some characteristics to the character. But honestly, some other things that I did to kind of make Saxon was, I mean, just how I'm sitting here today. I was having dinner with Parker Posey, and Parker was kind of sitting there at dinner, and she was like, what part of your body does Saxon lead with? And I was like, I don't know, actually, I think. And she was like, well, you have to have a body part that you're leading with. And then I was like, okay. Then I made the conscious decision. I was like, I think Saxon would lead with his private part. And she was like, that's perfect, honey. And she grabbed my knee, and she was like, that's exactly right. That's my boy. And I was like, okay. And so I decided that was just one of the things, how he sat. He sat very upright. And there were moments with us at the dinner table when I was upright and sitting like this, I would be kind of flexing and checking his muscles, or I would be doing this pec flex and stuff. And Mike thought those things were so funny, so he would take moments to kind of film those, or how he walked. That was a thing that Mike there was a joke, because he was always like, you don't look like you're rich. You're not walking rich. You're not walking rich enough. Aren't you a Schwarzenegger? Aren't you a Kennedy? Aren't you rich in real life? You don't look like you're rich at all. And I was like, well, I don't know what that means to walk rich. He was like, walk richer. And I was like, okay. So I started walking more like this Conor McGregor character that had this very just this physicality about him. And then there are other team members there that help a lot. Hair and makeup, they made decisions to make him very put together in the beginning with his tucked in shirt and the belt and the khaki shorts and the salmon shirt and the Gucci loafers. And then as the course of the season went on, he was more disheveled and
I didn't notice that.
Darker colors and more normal clothing as the season went on. And
I know you've been asked about this a million times, but the scene on the boat, that was kind of breaking some taboos, I think, right? Because it wasn't just a sex scene; it was, incest, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Did you have any concerns about that, or?
Of course.
You had to jump in, I guess, with both feet, otherwise it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I think when you sign on to do the White Lotus, you're jumping in, head first. You're really just like, let's do it. You don't know where it's going to go. But when I was auditioning, they had said, are you okay with, performing things sexually? Are you okay being nude at times? And, all those different things. So I knew an idea of where it could go. I didn't know to what extent the show would go. But again, you trust Mike. He's a brilliant writer. Everything that he does is adding to the character storyline or to the overall storyline. And I was nervous to film that, nervous for the perception, how it was going to go over with audiences. It's definitely pushing the envelope, and it's definitely, out there, but so is White Lotus. The main thing that happened with that scene was it was the change for Saxon. That was the first time that we kind of saw the power dynamic shift and change. And it was a really great moment for me because that allowed my character to be it allowed me to play a different version of Saxon. And that's where we saw a lot of the character arc and change start to happen, was right there. And then afterwards on the boat the next morning, and him just kind of internalizing all of this, oh my God, who am I? And a lot of White Lotus, what it's about is this, especially with Buddhism, is kind of like your birth and death and being reborn again. And that's kind of like that midpoint in the season where a lot of people's egos, or who they thought they were, are dying. Yeah. And you're being reborn again into this new version of yourself. And that's what happened with my character. Who he thought he was completely destroyed. and now he was having to figure out, who am I, you know? And everything he thought, walking into the White Lotus, the most confident, the most sure of himself, you know, always telling other people, the girls, of how to be, or telling his little brother or his sister what they need to do in life. And, you know, he's got everything figured out. Now everything has been turned on its head. And so it was I guess I looked at that scene as of course it was nerve-wracking, but it was also a beautiful moment to try to play a different performance.
Well, you did it well. I mean, I don't know how you did it, but it was amazing. Was there a moment that you thought acting is what you want to do, or was it more of kind of a slow burn?
There was definitely moments in life where I thought that I wanted to be an actor.
But there wasn't like a moment that...
There wasn't a specific moment, but I think that I mean, I'm trying to remember if there was I remember going to the set with my dad and just falling in love with the film, with the world. And I loved going with my dad. It was just like the most fun experience for me, and probably for any kid, to go to set, you know, and
just seeing him transform into so many different...
transform into these different characters, and then going in and you're in these studios. I just remember being like in love with all of that. I mean, I didn't probably understand what acting was at that time, but that's what opened me up to that world. And then I did plays in lower school and then in high school, and then I started to get more involved and go to you know, after college, and get into theater classes and get into real, you know, acting intensive classes, and actually get my feet wet on set, and that's where I, you know, really made the decision.
How often would you go to set? Your dad said somebody was just to come pick you up from school?
All the time.
Yeah?
All the time, yeah. Whenever I was allowed to. Sometimes he would pick me up even when I wasn't allowed to, but yeah. It was like, it was the best. And we'd go do homework in the trailer during, you know, certain times, and he would always set up these math questions and problems and you know, all these different homework assignments for us in the trailer and with my friends, and yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You've made it a point really to carve your own path. That seems like it must have taken a lot of thought and a lot of kind of figuring out exactly how to do that, how to carve your own path.
Yeah, it does. It takes, I'd say it does. I mean, I just made the conscious decision of not wanting to work with my dad, really.
You didn't even want to use his agents or anything, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to. It was more for just me personally, wanting to feel like I was making strides and learning and growing without him. I mean, I always know that there's, you know, my last name, there's connections, there's, you know, things that are going to help me. But I just, I didn't want to. I wanted to try to take a different path than that. More, I guess, fulfilling was what it was really down to. But it's, I mean, I'd love to work with him at some point.
Early on, did you ever think his name?
I thought about, just going under different names, just wondering what that would be like. But in the end of the day, I mean, it was, you know, I said this to him, I'm really proud of what he's built and the legacy he's built and the equity he's put into the name and stuff. And, you know, it's a unique last name.
Your dad's philosophy sounded like it was kind of to go big.
Yeah.
And you've said your philosophy is to go much slower and smaller.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I mean, for me, I have no, you know, ego with my work of I need to be number one on the call sheet. I need to have my name on the billboard and
have the biggest trailer.
All that kind of stuff. I mean, for me, it was really just like I want to work with amazing filmmakers, and I don't care if it's a one-day role, I don't care if it's a 5-day role, you know, if it's run a picture. I just want to continuously learn and grow and get better at my craft and get to work with these amazing, talented individuals. He's told me he's done one audition in his life.
I know, that's crazy.
One audition,
and
then it's
just
like
that.
On to the next. And you know, so it was a different time back then, and you know, the action heroes and the leading man were a lot different than it is today. And I guess my approach has just been I just want to continuously grow.
How have you been handling the sort of sudden fame, as it were? People knew you from other projects, but this is on a whole different level. How's that been for you?
I think that it's definitely been a roller coaster for me. It's been different than I thought it was going to be.
In what way?
In what way? I guess there's been other projects that I've been part of where people recognize you from. This was unique because people are so involved in the show.
Yeah.
The fans or
very
viewers,
invested.
Very invested. They're very invested in your character. They're very invested on where your character is going to go. Everybody has thoughts or theories or ideas about what's going to happen. Yeah. And so when they see you, they want to come up and they want to talk to you. They think you're going to spill some information. They think you're going to validate their crazy theory. I mean, I got it from Abby, my fiance. I mean, she would tell me all of her because she didn't know. So, like, I mean, every dinner she was telling me all these different ideas and thoughts, and I was just like, And then also, like we said in the beginning, the first 4 weeks, people loved to hate my character, and they made that very vocal. And they would come up and tell me, and it was a weird. I guess the biggest learning experience was people have a really hard time deciphering the difference between you as a human and your character. But I guess one of the benefits of having, my parents in the business and, seeing other friends that have been in the business and how their lives have changed and stuff, it was really important for me, and it always has been, that kind of my core foundation doesn't change. Meaning just like my friends and my family and my faith and my fiance and the people that are always around me, like that stuff has not changed at all. And so I think that's probably kept me kind of a little more to the ground, and allowed me to see that, this too shall pass. I mean, you kind of go in waves as an actor.
Yeah.
That, there's times where you might have a great moment with White Lotus, and then there's another 8, 9, 10 months that you might not work at all, and people forget about you or whatever.
Yeah.
And so as long as I have those other components around me, then not much changes, which I like.
You are especially close, I think, with your family.
Yeah.
Do you still have dinner every Saturday night over at your mom's house?
Every Sunday, yeah.
I had
dinner with them last night.
Did you?
Uh-huh.
And is that, I mean, so many people that are in this kind of, world, you go up and see people that end up just kind of with screwed up lives. Mm-hmm. You haven't. Mm-hmm. How did you manage to avoid all those pitfalls of fame and being?
I think it's for the reasons I just told you. I have the things that are constant around me. I think what happens with a lot of people, what I've seen with some of my own friends is, as their fame has gone up, that, the people around them have changed, or then other things have changed that then affects them. But for me, those parts have not changed. I've been with my fiance for it'll be 10 years, and I've had my family by my side my whole life, and my best friends are all from preschool and lower school and high school. And so, I think that in life you start to find out what matters to you at some point, and you start to understand the definition of what success is to you, and those are the things that I guess that define my what I want in life and what success is. So,
what do you think? Obviously, each of your parents have probably given you different things. What do you think your mom has given you, for example?
I think exactly that. Really trying to help me understand what it is in life that I find important.
Yeah.
And
she's more the introspective side of you.
Yeah, for sure. And she's always been, all about family and about faith and her friends, and those are the things that have rubbed off on me. Whereas my dad wanted to be he's very goal-centric and very much wanting to be the best at his, craft, and wants to be he's more, I would say more career-driven. And he's, and that's what makes him so unique.
He's the one that really suggested you study business?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
What did he say?
What did he say?
Yeah, was it like you got to have a Because it seemed like it was more than you just got to have a plan B in case acting doesn't work out.
Well,
It was
never
specifically
plan
business,
B.
right?
He said he would always tell us, "I hate plan B." He would say that it's plan B is for people that don't believe in where they will go in life. And if you have a plan B, that it already is your subconscious and your conscious will start telling you that you're not capable of getting to your plan A.
Oh, interesting.
And so he never wanted to have, or for us kids to have an idea that there's some sort of, plan B or a safety net or whatever you want to call it, because
So why business, though? Why did he think
business was because he had so many friends that were from back in the bodybuilding days, then into acting career, and so on and so forth, that made tons of money, but would end up, broke or losing a lot of it, or not understanding how to use investments, or didn't understand the difference of, revenue and profit, or whatever that might be, or spending expenses. You see that a lot in Hollywood or in sports or in other areas. But then he also just said that it didn't matter what you wanted to do in life, having a business background was important. If you wanted to be a journalist, or if you wanted to be a teacher, or you wanted to be a trainer, and you want to start your own training company, or you want to be whatever that might be. And for an actor, having a business background is extremely important, and understanding the difference of being a personal entity versus having an S corp, and understanding your expenses, and understanding how you're writing things off, or actually, at the end of the day, I am a business, in one way or not or another. It's I'm trying to build my business and the equity of my name, and
a brand.
So it is, and just understanding that, and kind of how to make a dollar into two, and things like that he would teach us growing up. So, and he always told us, which is something we touched on in the interview, but he's made more money and stuff from business than he has from acting.
Is that right?
And from his real estate side of the business to the bodybuilding to his ventures than in film. And even in the film side, talking about even with twins, how he structured that deal about taking the minimum SAG scale for an actor, instead of taking his normal paycheck, and taking a revenue share on the back end of the first dollar in on the gross, which ended up being astronomical. So those are, I guess, the reasons to have a business kind of background. My dad put me in charge of his memorabilia when I was
Really?
10, and it was all for nonprofit. I didn't make any money, but it was to understand how to sell. And I would go, and he said, you have the ability to use my likeness. Go and do what you want with it, and sell stuff, and it'll all go to charity. It'll go to After School All-Stars. And so I would take these different photos of him, at Muscle Beach, and we would frame them. I took replica of the Conan swords and get him to sign them, and I would sell them for $10,000 a pop.
And how old were you then?
And that was 10, 11, 12, 13. Jeez. I did it for years. I would go and get plates made, barbells and dumbbells, and I'd get them to sign in and just sell them, and just ridiculous things. Humidors, I'd take humidors from his house and get him to sign it and go and sell it. And it was the purpose was so that I would understand. Okay, if I got this picture printed and then I went and got it framed, how much did it cost? And then okay, if that's my cost, and I double it or triple whatever, and I sell it, then what is revenue versus profit? It was just a basic ways of allowing me to understand.
Your mom also really drilled into you this notion of service.
Yeah.
Figuring out what you can do for other people.
Yeah.
Have you yourself ever thought about going into politics?
Well, I would say it was really from my grandmother, my grandfather.
Yeah.
It was kind of that instilled in that, I would say, in that kind of, even from my grandmother's father, and the Kennedy side of being of a public servant. What can you do to give back, and not ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, type of a motto. And so with my grandfather starting the Peace Corps, or my grandmother starting Special Olympics, and my dad starting the After School All-Stars, and my mom doing the Alzheimer's and Women's Alzheimer's movement, I think it was instilled in us to find ways to give back at an early age.
Pretty high bar, though.
Huh?
Pretty high bar.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but it's also, it's not like, at the end of the day, it's about learning the lesson of finding ways to to give back and to help others, and it's better to give than receive, and things of that nature. But yeah, I guess that's where what I look at. It doesn't have to be through public office to find ways to give back. And yeah, I think that's part of my motto, and that's part of even when I talk about business. It's about how can we build B Corps? How can you do things that are for profit but that are also mission driven and that give back? There's no reason there can't be both.
So looking back at this whole year and where you are now, I mean, the expectations are probably a little higher for you now, right? Having this much success. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Maybe you thrive off it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the rest of my career.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just starting, and there's, I've got a great project coming up that I'm doing with Margaret Qualley that we're about to go start filming in August. Got a lot of other things that are in the docket for later this year and early next year. So, I'm excited.